is that when groundwater or rainwater or snow melt goes through the cement dust, it picks up chemicals and becomes more alkaline. And so that alkalinity was detected, and even though CMS Land had sold its interest in the project in 2002, we retained the environmental obligations. And so we've been working since 2004 to address the alkalinity issues, and then we also, part of the analysis, discovered that there's a small amount of mercury that's also in this water that goes into the bay. And so we've really been working to address those issues.
So let's start out with the process, and driving by there on a regular basis. I don't know how our listeners could have missed it, but there's been all these cranes, there've been all these digging equipments, and there's been the park rededication. What was the process? Was there a scientific process that went on the collection of these?
Yeah. One of the first things we did at the site was develop a plan where we could identify, okay, determine exactly where the cement dust is at, where it's buried. Also determine, well, where this water that's coming out of these piles, where is it coming at? And so we did that work, and then we've installed 2,800 feet of collection lines.
So it's about a half mile then.
Yeah, about a half mile.
Okay.
And in essence, what we're doing is we're capturing this water as it comes out of the piles before it gets to the lake.
Okay.
And so we're dealing with, on an average day now, we're capturing about 150,000 gallons of water. And on some days, if it's raining, we're dealing with 310,000 gallons of water. So a lot of water that we're having to deal with. And so at East Park, and you were there in June when we had the rededication.
A little rainy that day.
Yeah, a little rainy, a little misty, but the spirits were high. But at East Park, the work that was done there, in essence, we consolidated the cement dust that was there. We covered it with an impermeable liner. It's very thick plastic. And then we covered that with sand and then clean soil and then planted it and did all that. And then there's also collection lines at the base of the piles, or that pile. And so the idea is you capture that water before it gets to the bay to protect the environment. And so that's what we did at East Park. And unfortunately, we had to close the park for several years while we did our research and developed a plan and then implemented it. But now we were able to open it, and it's a beautiful park.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, and getting a lot of use from what I hear.
Now the process that I believe this was a brownfield site, and then how did the EPA get involved?
Well, if you go back to the early '90s, there was a agreement, as you're aware of, called a covenant not to sue. That's a standard brownfield development agreement that basically says, hey, this is a site that's got some environmental issues. If you develop it this way and take these steps, then down the road, the state agencies won't come and ask you to do more with it than what you're willing to do right now. And so we had that in place with the state. The EPA was not a signatory to that. And so what happened in '04 was when the high levels of alkalinity were detected along the shoreline, then the EPA came forward and got involved. And part of that, one of the reasons they got involved was that to represent the interests of the Little Traverse Bay bands of Ottawa Indians, who are, of course, very concerned about the fishing.
Right, because this is part of, if I remember correctly, part of their 1837 thereabouts agreement, as far as their right to have fishing rights.
Right, and so that's how the EPA got involved. So so we're dealing with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, and we've made some significant progress at the site, because with the collection lines and the work we've done already, that we take regular readings along the shoreline. Those readings are predominantly at the level that they're supposed to be. We have a performance standard of 9, and on the alkalinity scale, the water in the bay is about 8 to 8.5. So if we can have our readings be roughly that level, then we know we're doing a good job. So we've got that done. And so there were several health advisories that the local health department had issued. The number of those have been lifted. And so we've done a lot of work and made a lot of progress.
Now, so we collect all this water. Now, I see these trucks pulling out of Bay Harbor all the time. Now, is that railed down to some place, or does it, do they take it off in a landfill? How does this process work?
Yeah. Well, once the water's collected and we treat it to lower the pH levels in it to its alkalinity, and then it's trucked away for disposal. Roughly half of it goes down to the Grand Traverse septage facility where it's mixed with the other water there and then further treated and then released to the lake. And then roughly the other half goes to Johannesburg to a deep injection well. So that's what happens to the water. And again, the trucks are rolling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We're doing some looking at it, and we're realizing that we're talking about, all told, more than 500,000 miles of truck traffic on Northwest Michigan roads to dispose of this water. So
that's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
So then,
a lot of congestion.
So what is there a long-term strategy? I know that there's been a lot of discussions. We've seen, the signs up about no deep injection well over at Alba, and I've seen a lot of people have come up and talked about that at office hours and expressed concerns. What are sort of the strategies that we're laying out right now?
Okay. Well, we're at a key stage in the project because we've really addressed all the health and safety concerns. And so really the next issue is, okay, how do we get it to the final stage? And the water disposal is a key question. And we are really looking at several options. I mean, one option is to send the water into the City of Petoskey sewage system, have it treated there, released to the lake. We recently filed an application for a state permit to try to drill a deep injection well right there near the project site. And we also, as you mentioned, we have the injection well permit over in Antrim County. And so that's being held up by legal challenges. But that's one thing that's still on the table. Then another option would be for us to treat the water, reduce the mercury level, and then release it to the lake. So those are roughly the issues we're looking at and trying to get a handle on.
So, and I realize that you have a legal responsibility, and this doesn't affect electoral rates. What do you know off the top of your head right now? How much did Consumers has into this project so far? And
CMS Land so far has spent about $90 million on this.
Wow.
And we're spending about $6 million a year to collect, treat, and truck water.
Wow.
And dispose of it. So in our view, trucking is not a viable long-term option, that we really need to develop a local disposal option. We were very pleased recently when the Little Traverse Bay bands of Ottawa Indians came out and issued a public statement saying they would support our efforts to find a local option. So that's where we're focusing right now, is to look at those options. Really the issue we have with the local deep injection well is there's not much geological data available for Emmett County. And what we do have tells us that there's a very low likelihood that we'd be able to drill a well and that would work for the project. We've had a lot of discussions with the City of Petoskey. The main issue there is that they say their system, they think they really would have to limit us with the amount of water to about 65,000 gallons a day.
Right, and you're doing 100?
Yeah, we're doing about 100,000 gallons on average. So there's, even if we were able to use the City of Petoskey, and there are other technical issues there with the city. So that's really one of the issues. And so what we're really looking at right now, the option that's kind of moving to the forefront is where we would be able to do further treatment of the water and then release it back into the lake.
Now, if you pre-treated this water, then would that help in the processing through the Petoskey system?